I know that many of you have seen our video on the U.S.-China war that must take place before the Sunday Law, which is the mark of the beast. And so the situation is intensifying between the two countries, between America and China. And both countries are preparing for war, especially their militaries are preparing. So this video brings you up to speed on much has been transpiring over the last 10 days that has shown what God prophesied in his word will come to pass, showing the validity of God's word and how we can trust and believe in God's holy word. There's no reason for us to doubt any portion of God's word. And so we'll put the link in the description box below for those of you that have not seen our video on the U.S.-China war that takes place before the mark of the beast. And also we'll put it in the comment section below. God bless you as you are up to speed on how Bible prophecy is fulfilling.
China has quickly grown and modernized its military. The PLA Navy in particular is now, by some estimates, the largest in the world. And there are signs that their economic projects may have military motives. In 2013, Xi launched his signature overseas policy, the Belt and Road Initiative. He says its goal is to open up the same Silk Road trade routes that once connected China to Europe, Africa, and Asia.
We found that 6 of the Belt and Road Initiative countries are countries that have benefited from debt relief. The last time there was a major global debt relief package. And now they are borrowing from China. And another 26 or 27 of those countries are countries that essentially have a junk bond rating. So we have to be concerned about the ability of these countries to manage the debt that China is saddling them with.
Since 2013, China's lent or invested more than $1 trillion abroad, much of it for port infrastructure. But most of that lending comes with conditions, and when another country can't pay, China takes advantage of its upper hand. In Sri Lanka, a Chinese company built a port. When the government couldn't pay it back, China got a 99-year lease on it, along with surrounding land.
If you're the largest investor in the port, and you have a management contract to run the place, you get a visit request from the PLA Navy saying, I'd like to call on your port for 5 days. It's very hard for country X to say no.
These ports lay the groundwork for future military infrastructure.
The port of Hambantota, nobody goes to. It is ideally located right along that sea lane between the Straits of Hormuz from the Persian Gulf all the way to the Straits of Malacca. And so it's in a perfect location if, in the future, China was concerned about its sea lanes. You could put 2 or 3 destroyers there, a small squadron, to act as an escort.
China already appears to be carrying out a similar plan in Djibouti, where it built a port in the country, then used that access to build its first overseas military base next door.
The U.S. has a very important base in Djibouti too, so they are trying to listen in on the things that we're doing, track the activities that we're doing.
U.S. officials are concerned that China's stake in 2 ports in Israel could give it ears on the ground there too. The Israeli government is reportedly reviewing a deal to let a Shanghai company operate Haifa port, which the U.S. Navy regularly visits. The trend gives new meaning to China's expanding port network in and around the U.S., especially since Belt and Road seems to actually be part of a vision to build a world-class military capable of confronting the U.S.
Xi Jinping talks about realizing the China dream. He certainly wants to be treated as one of 2 great powers in the world.
In Brussels today, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi urges U.S. allies not to choose Huawei to build their 5G infrastructure. The U.K. has recently allowed the Chinese telecom firm to build part of its 5G network. President Trump hung up on British Prime Minister Boris Johnson last month when he heard Johnson's decision.
On Monday in Belgium, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi pressuring U.S. allies not to use Huawei's 5G infrastructure. Last week, the Department of Justice charged the Chinese telecom giant with conspiracy to steal trade secrets from U.S. counterparts.
It's a People's Liberation Army developed initiative using reverse engineering from Western technology. So, of course, it's going to be cheaper to put on the market, and if it's cheaper, they get the market share, and then they bring in their autocracy of lack of privacy and other entities.
The UK decided to allow Huawei to build part of its 5G cellular infrastructure, despite the Trump administration calling on them to boycott the Chinese company.
Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump probably not going to have many dinners together, but if you ask them about British purchase of Huawei, they'll give you the same answer.
Washington identified Huawei as a national security threat last November. In January, Rep. Jim Banks from Indiana introduced a bill that would stop the U.S. from sharing intelligence with countries that use Huawei's 5G networks. Banks called Huawei a Trojan horse for the Chinese Communist Party, used to spy on and infiltrate other nations.
For the benefit of a few corporations, you cannot sell the privacy of the people of your country down the river. As I said before, it's like having the state police, the Chinese state police, right in your pocket.
Pelosi says the Chinese regime economically threatens companies, saying if they don't use Huawei, the regime won't make deals with them.
It's a big price to pay in terms of national security, in terms of economy, and in terms of our values and our governance. And that's why we have bipartisan support for this position. It's not about an economic advantage. It's about a values urgency, autocracy versus democracy. We choose democracy.
As we look at our national defense strategy, it says that we are now in this era of great power competition. And that means we need to focus more on high-intensity warfare going forward. And our long-term challenges are China #1 and Russia #2. And what we see happening out there is a China that continues to grow its military strength, its economic power, its commercial activity, and it's doing so in many ways illicitly, or it's using the international rules-based order against us to continue this growth, to acquire technology, and to do the things that really undermine our nation's, I say that plural, sovereignty, that undermine the rule of law, that really question their commitment to human rights.
When we talk about what happens next within the 5G space, a lot of investors and frankly a lot of governments say to us, listen, if there was a better, cheaper alternative to Huawei, we'd be using it. But unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be the case. What is the U.S. government planning to do to get U.S. companies there?
Well, we need to do our part, not just with U.S. companies, but with European companies. There are some Asian companies, and we need to make sure that we provide an affordable, competitive alternative. But at the same time, we just can't be duped into a company that's subsidized by the Chinese government, that has close ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and allow them into our networks and compromise them, because what it will do is it will undermine our security. It will undermine our ability to exchange information and intelligence and to do all those things we need to do to guarantee the security of our countries and the security of our peoples.
How much money are you willing as the Pentagon to put behind that kind of technology?
Well, we're putting hundreds of millions of dollars behind it right now by running test beds at several of our bases where we invite commercial vendors in. We open up the community, if you will. I can put aside unnecessary regulation that inhibits the testing, and we can really help companies grow in a partnership with DoD, because it enables us too. We need to be able to access data at the speed and volume of relevance to warfighting, and if we can help commercial vendors get there, it helps us. It also helps the marketplace.